welcome to another episode of See You on the Other Side. I am Christine.
And I'm Leah.
And we have Eric and Courtney here from Psanctuary Church. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Thanks for having us here.
Of course. We've been looking forward to this interview for a long time.
Yes, we have.
I kind of want to say how I know the history of you all before you tell us what Psanctuary is. Because Eric, your name has come up several times in conversation with clients, with my psychiatrist. I did some Googling.
One of your rabbit holes.
I go down rabbit holes. That's my thing. So many articles about you were popping up, and you used to do mushroom guided trips like years and years ago. And then you moved to Jamaica, opened what would you call it? Like a mushroom
retreat center.
A retreat center. Yes. In Jamaica. And then you're back here in Louisville, which is amazing.
Thankfully. Yeah.
Do you like that?
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Okay. And now that you're back, this is where I've seen your name pop up 100 more times. And I'm like, okay, we got to get this guy on. You are both founders, along with other people, of Psanctuary Church.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah. So Sanctuary Sacred Mushroom Church.
Okay.
We are a 508c1a faith-based organization. We're a constitutional church, and we commune with sacred mushrooms as our sacrament to connect with what's commonly called God, the divine, the all, the universal consciousness, the Tao.
The creator.
Yes. So we are a community of almost 200 members now.
Nice.
Yeah. And we are, our community is all over the country.
It'll be 202 after this.
Yes. Perfect.
Or no, it'll be more than that, but for us too, for sure.
If you want to, it doesn't sound like we'd be converting you or anything.
No.
We're already there.
We're already
joining in.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So we have Sunday services every Sunday via Zoom, 10 a.m. That's a great place to feel us out. We have a 30-minute service portion. So we start out with a meditation and like a mindfulness meditation. And then we move into readings. We do 2 readings every Sunday, one from the Tao Te Ching, which is our primary text. And the other one is a rotating text. Primarily so far, they've been written by New Thought leaders. Currently, we're on The Cosmic Power Within, is that it? By Joseph Murphy. And then we do journaling, followed by a 90-minute discussion, which is where it gets really... Ready? Juicy. That's my new word, juicy.
Juicy.
That's where it gets really there's just really great conversations during that 90 minutes. Eric generally leads as the lead minister of Sanctuary. Still getting used to
the
that.
only minister yet.
The only minister yet. And wow, we have so much going on, really. We just started renting Clifton Universalist Unitarian Church.
Isn't that where you guys meet on Wednesdays?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's brand new for us. We were in a space on Broadway. We transitioned out of that space, and now we're in Clifton. So we just had our first women's circle, which I led, which I usually lead those on new moons.
I love that.
The closest Wednesday to new moon. Yeah, the next one is coming up. And Eric just led our first community circle there last week. And then we have a potluck coming up and silent disco next week.
I've never done silent disco, and I want to do it.
Come on by. Yeah. We have our own silent disco headsets. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. And then Ronnie, one of our members, is leading a men's circle in a couple weeks. And yeah, we're just going to try and keep having these circles on Wednesdays. That's a really important thing. We also just launched, we're on our 8th week now, actually, of our 8-week cleric certification program. So we have 20 clerics in training from also around the country.
Wow.
People in training to get their certification to serve as a cleric with Sanctuary. So
wow.
Yeah.
And you also have a podcast.
We also have a podcast, yeah. Eric and I, called Psilocybin Says.
Which
And I don't know if you've seen the live stream that I do on Monday nights.
I've not seen that.
Yeah,
No.
It's called On Psilocybin.
Okay.
So it's just, I do a 90-minute open forum. Come on, talk about whatever you want to around psilocybin. It's just kind of something I wanted to just do as a gift, just for anybody that wants to hop on and talk.
That's awesome.
And for those that don't know, sorry to interrupt you, Leah, but
Yeah.
you guys are a married couple as you're cuddling on the couch, looking
Yeah.
so cute
This is what
and
we do at
adorable.
Sanctuary. No, that's not what we do at Sanctuary. We are married. Yes, we have 2 kids. We're 5 and 1.5.
I love that.
So I guess what's interesting, we were talking about this earlier, the idea of having a church around psilocybin, and the Sanctuary, it's spelled with the silent P, just like psilocybin is spelled with the silent P. It's not really, we were speaking on this earlier, a religion, so to speak, right? I mean, or is it?
Well, I guess the question that I have with that is, when does a faith practice become a religion? Does there have to be a certain number of people, or does there have to be I don't know. I don't know. That's been a question that I've been really contemplating for a while. Religion is a dirty word for most people. I think in the United States, there's tons of religious trauma. Growing up Catholic, I definitely feel like I have come out of a cult. But we were also talking about the root of, or the etymology of the word religion, which is, you were looking it up there?
I have it pulled up. It's the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or god.
That's like a Webster definition. I was saying like the Latin etymology. I had this the other day, and I can't believe I'm blanking on it. I've been trying to fuse this into my memory. Because that's really not that important to what we're doing, right? And I think that it is beneficial to extract that word, at least right now, especially from something like psilocybin. You know, people ask us relatively frequently, "Are you a cult?" That kind of stuff. But what most people don't know is that even Catholicism, the various forms of Christianity, Judaism, most of your religions, historical religions, actually are rooted in psychedelic experience.
I've heard that. I've read a lot about that.
I have too.
Yeah. And it's very real. You can look it up. There's a great website, a friend of mine, Carl DeBorgi, up in University of Minnesota. He has a site called themushroomstone.com. His father was the archaeologist who discovered the Mayan mushroom stones and proved that they were, in fact, mushrooms when all the other archaeologists were arguing they were not. And Carl is an art historian who has gone around the world and researched sacred art from various traditions, Buddhist, Catholic, you name it. And the mushroom is ubiquitous. It's often codified so that you don't know what it is. And even, you probably heard of the John Mark Allegro and his theories when they discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls. He was the only agnostic translator, and he was the expert in Aramaic. And his belief was that the Dead Sea Scrolls showed pretty clearly that early Christianity was a mushroom fertility cult.
Wow.
Whoa.
No, I haven't heard that at all.
Yeah.
Well, I've had my own thoughts and theories around this, and I'm sure that they've been written somewhere, because I find that every time I have a thought, I end up picking up a book and I'm like, oh my God, I was thinking that same thing. But, you know, some of the stories in the Bible, and I don't want to like take away from what we're talking about, but some of the stories in the Bible seem to me like maybe those were psychedelic experiences, and maybe those were lessons written down, and we're taking them so literal.
For sure.
And not really looking at the lessons behind them. So when, you know, God parted the sea, or, you know, all of these things, you know, how can you prove that that wasn't someone's experience and a lesson that they learned through psychedelics that they're trying to teach everyone?
Right. Well, I mean, the story of the burning bush, there are historians right now that are speculating that was DMT from acacia.
Wow.
And even when I was in Jamaica, there was one time that they bulldozed a bunch of acacia, and I'm walking through, I'm like, I smell DMT. And I look over, and there's like all these acacia trees.
You can smell it?
Oh, yeah. And in Revelation, you know, the story of Revelation takes place on the island of Patmos, which is off the coast of Greece, and Mycenae, the Mycenaeans that mycelium that literally means the mushroom people. And so this island off the coast of Greece, which was very close to Mycenae, historically known for the presence of Amanita muscaria. And in the story, the prophet, which, you know, if you look back at Ezekiel and Isaiah and all these prophets, they're doing all kinds of weird, crazy stuff that we would think is a madman. So in the Revelation, though, he says that the angel gave him scrolls to eat, and in his mouth they were sweet, and they turned his stomach sour, and then immediately thereafter started having these visions of 8-headed dragons and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, they were doing mushrooms.
Totally mushrooms. If you look at the stems, I had some pictures that I took once before. The stems of the Amanita muscaria, which are the most potent part of the mushroom, look like little rolled up scrolls. And if you eat them, I've eaten Amanita muscaria, don't recommend it, but I've done it. And you eat them, they taste like, they're very, very sweet. And then
it gets better.
Comes the nausea and the visions.
Are those the ones like with the red top and the white dots?
Yeah.
Like the
and
most
even,
common little.
Like we can go far down so many rabbit holes. But even that, the Santa Claus, you've probably seen some of the relations of Santa. That's totally true.
Yeah.
The Siberian shamans were, there's videos of them dressed in red and white like the mushroom, sitting on reindeer skin, and instead of drums, they have bells that they're chink, 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 chink.
Have you heard that?
I did not know that.
Oh, I feel I'm gonna have to send you some stuff because I've tried to say that to my kids before, and they're like, "Mom's trying to say Santa Claus was a shaman."
He was. Not only was a shaman, he was a psychedelic shaman.
Yeah, lots of shamans, and they used to.
Crazy! I did not know that.
Yeah, because there's something about reindeers when they eat the Amanita muscaria.
You can drink their urine.
You can drink their urine, and that's how it's
even
non-toxic.
Shit, I learned
the phrase "pass the pot." It's an old phrase that I used to hear growing up. That, from what I understand, is related to when you eat Amanita muscaria, you can pass the active components, muscimol. You can pass that through up to 7 people in their urine. So the shaman would eat the mushroom, take the ill effect, piss it out, and then they would each drink it and piss and drink it and piss.
That's not how we do things.
Oh, thank God. Clear. I'm like, I retract my statement.
But that's not psilocybin. That's muscimol. It's very different. It is Amanita muscaria is toxic. It can be deadly, so it's not anything to be played with.
Yeah, that's why you had to drink it through piss.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've eaten them fresh, dried, and in various forms, and it is not a very pleasant experience.
You're crazy, man.
A little bit.
So how are mushrooms incorporated into Sanctuary?
How are mushrooms incorporated? Well, there's different sacrament services that we currently offer. We have done private services for members in their homes. And we've also offered, we've had several group retreats where we've rented properties, and our members have attended those. Those have been 5 nights, so 2 sacrament services over 5 nights. And we have a camping retreat coming up early August for our members in Rockcastle County, Kentucky, Mount Vernon
I used
area.
to live in Rockcastle. Yeah,
Really?
I did.
Wow.
I've kind of lived everywhere, though.
Okay, so then you're familiar with Great Saltpeter Preserve Cave
Probably
area.
not.
Okay. Okay.
It was just one of the many places I've lived as a kid.
She had quite the childhood, so she moved around a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I know where that it's sort of close to like Berea Community College.
Listen, I'm not from Kentucky, so
no, but it's a very small town. It's beautiful. There's a lot of nature and stuff there. So.
Okay. One of our members leads cave tours, and he's on the board of that preserve, and so he's highly recommended this property to us. So, so we'll have probably 15 members at that camping retreat.
How do you become a member?
Yeah, membership is a 5-step process. So you can go to sanctuary.org, and you'll find membership buttons all across the website. But first step is to fill out an application. It's 15 questions or so. Basically, we're just getting to know you, what's bringing you here. Are you interested in Sanctuary, your experience thus far? If you have any, a lot of our members are just they're feeling called to what we're doing, but they may not have any mushroom experience, so to speak, yet.
Kind of like just curious.
Very curious. They've read a lot, they've heard a lot, and they're on this spiritual quest. And we just feel right. They've been to our Sunday services, and so they're like, yeah, let's do it. I want to join and try the mushroom experience and see how I feel after. But the second step is some waivers. We have a liability waiver, and then we have a code of ethics. That's the third step. So that's public. You can see our code of ethics online, and that's something that we come back to when we make all of our decisions. And then step 4, what's step 4?
That's not my bag, baby.
Party. Time to party. It's okay.
Totally blanking on step 4, but the last step is maybe that's okay. The last step is a discovery call. That's an important thing to do. Is step 4 or 5. Oh my God! Please edit this out.
You got it.
So wait, application. Oh, step 1 is step 1 is the I skipped that. It's the monthly donation tier. So so you pick a donation tier. So it's basically a sliding scale thing. I forgot about the money part.
You can't do everything for free.
Yeah, that's right. So step 5 is the discovery call. So we have group discovery calls with other members, and that's basically just getting to know each other and like, again, is this a good fit?
You don't have to be a member to do the services though, right? To join in on the service calls on Sunday?
No, that's public.
Okay.
So we typically have around 30 to 40 people on those calls, and people come in and out. And as far as like, it's not the same people every weekend. But yeah, those are public. So quite a few people aren't members, but they're there to feel us out.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I love this because some of our guests or listeners, not guests, our listeners have asked us, where we found mushrooms, where we did them. And that's information that we really can't share with people all the time, because of the legalities of it. And you guys have taken this a step further, and it's very legal the way that you're doing it and going about it.
Well, I mean, that's a big part of why we do the discovery calls and why we have such an involved process, is because we do want to make sure that people are really considerate when they're doing this, and that they're considering that we are a church. We are not a therapeutic organization. That doesn't mean that mushrooms don't perform a therapeutic function, but first and foremost, we are a church, and we want to make that clear at every step of the way for people coming into this. Courtney, also, she didn't mention our subtle sacrament. Those are one of my favorite things that we do. It's comparable to a microdose, but we'll do like hikes at Bernheim.
A microdose.
Microdose. I like that. We've been talking about doing a silent disco, subtle sacrament, yoga, and that kind of stuff. So, most people are aware of the benefit of doing low dose as well as high dose work with psilocybin.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that about the therapeutic organization. There are some people that have come to the discovery calls and decided, well, maybe this isn't a good fit for me because of the way we operate as a community. That's something we want to make really clear is we're not providing necessarily like a one-way service for you. That's something that we did in Jamaica. It was a retreat center. So like you come, we provide a service, you leave, and we don't have to engage with each other anymore. But this is pretty different. Our vision is kind of long-term. We're thinking about our children and our grandchildren and families having families that are like ongoing support. So it's not like you come, you have a retreat or a sacrament service, and then you leave and we don't talk anymore. It's really important to us that if you're coming to us and you really want to engage in our community, that's something you want to keep doing.
Yeah, and I would say that's why there's 2 reasons that I'm really grateful to be back in Kentucky. One is because I love Kentucky, and the other is because we weren't capable of really fostering the community in Jamaica. As Courtney kind of alluded to, we would have a lot of people come down for deep trauma work, which I value that. I love doing that work, but it doesn't set up for the ongoing integration and communication that is really valuable. And as a practitioner, I care very deeply about the people that I'm working with and form very quick bonds with psilocybin. And so to have worked with, over 1,000 people who I don't have contact with now, very many of them. I mean, there are certainly individuals who I've worked with that are coming into the church, and that's beautiful to see them coming back into our community. But psychedelics are about community. That's really what they're about. They facilitate such a powerful bonding, which is where most of the healing comes from. Even this notion of the mystical experience, like, what are you doing? You're bonding with your higher self. You're bonding with this, whatever the ineffable it is. So that's, so much of what I love about what we're doing now as compared to previously.
So after my first mushroom experience, I was really lacking that community. I did this amazing 5-gram journey and had such an awakening. I didn't know that's what it was at the time, but I came home, and I had a husband who was an addict, and family who didn't understand, and friends who didn't understand. And I really felt alone for a very long time in the mushroom space. And it almost made me feel like I was going crazy, to be honest. I feel like I said that in a lot of my mental breakdowns, like a year later, like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, I'm going insane. Like, because I was experiencing life in a very different way and had no one to talk to about it. I was seeing things differently. And it took me a very long time to realize that what that was a spiritual awakening. And I think it was TikTok that taught me that. I swear. Like, it was one of those checklists. Like, is this what you're going through? You're going through a spiritual awakening. And I was like, oh, that's what happened? Because
you went down your rabbit hole.
I went down my rabbit hole. And I was like, holy shit, that's what's happening. I literally went from being agnostic, atheist, whatever you want to call it, completely cut off from religion, to like, oh my God, I'm spiritual now. Like, what the fuck just happened?
There were a number of instances in Jamaica where I would work with people who came in a very kind of similar perspective. They would have a big experience, and then they'd go home, and I'd find out 2 months or 6 months later, they'd finally reach out and say, I've been going through this and I don't know what's going on. And I'm just like, if I just would have had access to you, we would have had a community where you could be sharing what you're experiencing. There's so much that can be supported, even through Zoom, even through those virtual communities, so it's super, super important for this work. And I think that we're going to find that even in the therapeutic community. And Oregon's going to be an incredible litmus test for how this rolls out societally. But my suspicion is that if there's not well-grounded and well-founded community support for people after they come out of those experiences, then the benefits won't be realized as soon as they could have been otherwise. And there'll probably be a lot of uncomfortable stuff going through.
You're exactly right. What is that one thing we said in an episode where you take a fish out of polluted water?
Yeah, if you take a fish out of polluted water and then you get it healthy, but then you put it back in the polluted water and expect it to stay healthy, that's not going to work. And so, even with the both of us, yes, even after my mushroom experience, I had you, but I also had, a lot of people who didn't get it, and it's very lonely and it's very isolating, and it's a different lonely, because you're working on yourself and you're healing, but also you still need that community. And I just listened to your guys' episode about community and how important it is. And it makes so much sense, but it's kind of hard to find that because there's a lot of people who are very new to this world. I'm new to this world, and it's hard to find that support in Louisville, Kentucky.
So you could even, like, if you wanted to join Psanctuary as a member, or, just join the services, if you're someone who has done psychedelics but don't know who to go to or where to talk about it, like, they could come and talk with you all, right?
Yeah.
That's what
I didn't mention as well, we have a weekly we're wrapping up our 3-month workshop series, but there's a coaching arm of Psanctuary, more than integration.
Yes.
And we have weekly prep and integration workshops. So Eric and I rotate those, but we've tried to make them as accessible as possible. And membership, like if you're a member, you receive a reduced rate for a lot of the things that we offer, which is a benefit if you're not living nearby and, you're not able to participate in Sacrament services. The coaching and that kind of support is really important as well. And particularly within a group setting, there's definitely an important place for private one-on-one integration, coaching and therapy, but even more so seeing your peers and other people of all ages in a group talking about like peeling off the layers together. It kind of gives, you're watching other people give you permission to go deeper, and you're giving other people permission to go deeper. Someone cries in a group and then it's like, oh yeah, I can cry. Like I forgot, like it's okay to cry or laugh even. So that, the coaching's really important, but having the community, like I remember when I first had my first mushroom experience, and went really deep, I thought I had a friend network that would be able to hold space for me, all heavy cannabis users. And I thought, okay, like they're going to love this. Like I'm going to tell them about my experience. And I felt embarrassed. Like I walked away feeling like, oh my, like I feel judged. How is this happening? I thought, you all use cannabis as like a psychedelic, right? Like, I mean, we've been smoking weed together all these years, and they did not want to hear about my mushroom experience. And I kept trying to go there with them, and they were like, would you, like you're sounding a little crazy. Like, can we just not do this anymore? This talking about mushrooms thing.
But you can only meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
And if they're not there yet, then they're definitely not going to get it.
That's right.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think I'm far enough out there that most people coming into mushroom space are comfortable talking, as you're sharing this, and as we're talking about, peeling back the layers. And another thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately, that is going to be coming up in common conversation around psychedelics, is the stuff that we experience that is actually otherworldly, the supernatural, the clairvoyance, the things that without other people there, you will either think you're crazy or you'll dismiss it. And the value of particularly actually dosing together as a group is something that I had no clue about until I started to work in Jamaica. I was very much, Terrence McKenna, 5 grams in silent darkness kind of thing. Shut the fuck up and let me take my mushrooms. Don't talk. And when I got down there and started working with people and started seeing phenomena that I had experienced previously but didn't have anyone to reflect the experience off of and confirm or deny what was happening, that had a value that I never anticipated for my spiritual growth. And so being able to, I'm thinking of one lady in particular who has been on our last 2 Sunday services. She's never had a psilocybin experience. She's probably in her late 60s. She was at our community circle. And hearing us talk about the things that we're talking about that are just plain weird.
Right. I'm weird.
Right. But it gave her a level of comfort of that, okay, I can talk about anything here. And she was even talking on our Sunday service about how much just being a part of these conversations has helped open her up to her life experience. I mean, this is the thing. Like, we live in this world that we kind of pretend that we're just like these machines walking around eating and working and doing all this stuff. But if we're paying attention to synchronicities, we're paying attention to the people that come into our lives, and when you think you're thinking someone else's thoughts, like, so much of that is actually true. We are so much more incredible of creatures than we give ourselves credit for. And so being able to have that space where you can gradually let those barriers down and experience the spiritual side of being human, which isn't incense and robes, and it isn't gongs and sitting cross-legged. The spiritual side of being a human is realizing that you are majoritively energy, that you are vibration condensed, and that time is a construct that we have created. It doesn't even exist in the way that we perceive it as. And so being able to enter into those spaces with others, that's something that I get really excited about thinking about growing Psanctuary, because, for instance, in Jamaica, the facilitators that I would hire there, you work with people for a couple of years and you collect a lot of data and you confirm or deny experiences and you put pieces together. And I learned more in those 7 years than I did for 13 years prior, taking psilocybin by myself or every now and then with a friend. So when I think about Psanctuary as a community and getting past the idea of people coming in for trauma therapy and getting past all their stuff and blah, 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 but actually a group of people who regularly or semi-regularly are taking mushrooms together. Like, can you imagine a group of 100 people, let's just say, and 20 of those people, there's some kind of rotating, or I don't know. I also like the thought of how many people can we have on mushrooms at one time, right? Safely, and what can we generate with that? But can you imagine like a timeline 5 years from now where you've got 100 people who have been dosing together regularly and entering into this space that is a utilitarian space. We tend to think of the psychedelic space as, okay, I go in, my brain gets rewired, I come back out, and then I integrate, and what that means, like, we sit and have a conversation about what the experience was, which integration is so much more than just talking about the experience. But what I look forward to working with on a much deeper level that we only scratched the surface with in Jamaica, and that was only with our employees, basically, because we were dosing together regularly.
Wow.
But the minute the people that came in, they came, they're gone, they come, they're gone. They see stuff and they're like, okay, that was weird. And you're like, yeah, here's how I understand that. But to be able to get in that space and use it as a working space to impact reality. And I know this gets a little weird, and I don't really care, because it's time that we push the conversation. Psychedelics are
Absolutely.
they're
get weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I love that they're coming into the therapy and that this is being accepted as a medicine, but it is so much more than that. I mean, curing depression is the lowest hanging fucking fruit for psilocybin. You're talking about something that can wipe away time. You're talking about something that can allow you to have an out-of-body experience, like and not an imagined out-of-body experience. Like, you can get out of your energy, you can get out of your body, and you can go over there and you can help somebody with your energy. Like, that's stuff that we've just lost. It's part of human history, and you can look back through esoteric literature and you can see that these are all things that have been described beforehand. And thank God for me, in the depths that I've gone into without any support, because I don't know anybody that's taken as many mushrooms as me. And I'm not saying that to brag, but like, there were definitely times where I was like, oh, I'm way in over my head here. And thankfully, I was able to find, mainly it's come from Taoist traditions. The Taoist, those were the aim, and I don't mean like the ceremonial Taoism that is today, but like the 2,000-year-old, 3,000-year-old Taoism, where these were spiritually minded individuals who went out to research the nature of reality by observation and utilization of psychedelic plants and other practices that could help achieve altered states so that you can get past this ego self and understand what's going on better. There were so many things that happened to me in mushroom space that I thought I had like really messed up my system. And it wasn't until finding, particularly Montauk Chia is one of the more prevalent teachers, that he wrote a book called The Healing Light of the Tao, I think. And in that book, it described everything that I had experienced on psychedelics or on psilocybin that I could never find a description for. And he explained it in a utilitarian concept where, okay, this is how you leave your body and this is what you can do with that aspect of yourself. Or this meditation called the Microcosmic Orbit, where you understand, like, mushrooms showed me this microcosmic orbit going on in my body over and over and over. And I was like, what the fuck? And it's like saying, like, the mushrooms were saying, this is how you create your reality. This is how you do it. Like, this is, you take in information this way, it processes this way, and then it goes through, and then it projects out, and then it just reflects back. And I was like, I don't know, what the fuck? And it kept happening, I'm like, okay, what I've got, but there were like physiological phenomena that were attached to it that were concerning. Like I was like, this every time I eat mushrooms, like this shit happens, and I don't know that it's good. And so thankfully there are traditions. So I guess that's just a long way of saying that mushrooms are just showing us our potential, our real nature, and like, yay, let's get over our depression and addiction so that we can actually then get some real stuff done.
Well, and the interesting thing about the community that you guys are building, I've been saying for a while, I think we are very, as human beings, connection seeking, but we go about it in the wrong way. So I think when my husband was drinking, he was connecting to other people drinking, but the way I saw it after my mushroom experience, I was like, that's not real. That is a false connection. Because when you take away the alcohol, when you take away the substances, you don't know anything about that person's life or what they've been through or the way that they, see things. And I think since my experience, I've had much more meaningful connections and deeper connections with Christine, with my old co-host Sarah, and we always connected, but after her first mushroom experience, it was like we connected on another level. And even with my husband, it took him a while to experience mushrooms for the first time, but even that connection became stronger because we had, it was, I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
I mean, Tony and I connected. He's never done a macro dose, but Tony and I have, my fiance. Have connected just because I suppressed a lot of things for the majority of my life. And after I did this, I had a lot of just realizations of why I did the things that I did or behaved the way that I behaved, or, because a lot of my life I was living in survival mode. And that's what kept me alive, back when I was younger. But then as I got older, it hurt me in a lot of ways. And so just me opening up and me sharing a lot of just things that had happened to me and how they made me feel, our connection has gotten much, much stronger because I'm sharing a lot more and we've gotten closer because of that. And it's made him now curious and him wanting to maybe tackle some demons and him wanting to research more about this, and it has this domino effect. And I'm hoping that's why we wanted to do this podcast, is we just wanted, like I said, we're not the experts. We've experimented with it and we want to share our stories so we can continue to help with this change, because it is so much deeper than just helping with anxiety and depression.
Yeah, it really is to me about making connections that I think as a whole society has drifted away from.
But I think that's why it kind of freaks people out.
Yeah.
Because you are really sharing a very vulnerable you and the things that you've learned through this experience that you have. And people are like, whoa, I am not there yet.
Yeah.
It weirds them out, right?
Yeah, what you were saying, getting a little weird.
I like a metaphor that actually John Shealy shared with us one time. Basically, what I heard him say is, sometimes people are walking around all day and they have all this mud on their feet and their legs, and they don't even know that they have mud on their feet. They just think they are the mud, and they think, oh, this is me. And then they realize it's only until they realize that the mud is not them that they can wash it off, and they can actually be them without the mud. And for me, that's what mushrooms have done. They've shown me all the attachments that I've made throughout my life and maybe even lifetimes before, that I just have associated with me and thinking, well, this is who I am. I'm unhappy, or I'm controlling, or I'm whatever, all these things. I am an alcoholic, or I am whatever, all these labels.
Depressed.
I am anxious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really quite a relief to realize that's actually not me at all. I am none of that. I am.
Well, I mean, go back to the burning bush, right? Like, what was it God said to Moses when he had the burning bush? Who are you? The answer was, I am that I am.
Yeah.
The I am is the most powerful declarative statement that we make. We do not realize that we are creating our reality every time we say, I am, whatever I am. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm hungry, whatever it is. And like, when you can have that realization in that state or coming out of the mushrooms, and it takes time, you know, some of the people working with, and these patterns are so deeply ingrained into who we are that they really believe that this is who we are. And it can be very challenging for someone to wake up to the fact that they have been, you know, boxing themselves in. But it's also can be very liberating. It's the same thing as that vulnerability in conversation. You're terrified to do it, and then once you do it, you're like, oh, yes, this is where it's at. And so the same thing goes with like saying, I am happy. Like, I am grateful for life and all the challenges. It sounds scary to even cross that threshold, but when you do, and if you can allow that to sink in and let that be who you are, it's such a relief.
Yeah.
Do you find that every time you say you've done mushrooms a lot, and I've listened to some of your episodes, I'm like, yeah, he's done a lot of mushrooms. Like, but you know, I even feel like a baby next to him. Like, in
you
this
are.
space, I'm such a baby. Every time I've done a large dose, there has been a lesson attached to it, and I learned a new word. Platitude. I'd never heard this word before. I think it was Michael Pollan who said something about it. You know, you go through life and you hear all these things like, I am grateful, I am worthy, I love myself. And you hear it so much that it almost loses validity, and it doesn't really, you hear it, but okay, what do I do with that? It's this platitude, and then you have this mushroom experience or spiritual experience, and you hear it, and then it clicks.
If you knew how many people came to Jamaica and were like, I didn't realize I was spending $5,000 to get a Hallmark card.
Right? Oh my God. It's so true,
It's like,
though.
you take mushrooms, you go through all this, and like you come out of it and you're like, wow, friends really are the greatest gift.
Yeah, well, and like I owned a gym. Like, I posted
Motivational.
inspirational stuff all the time, and I believed it was true. Obviously, I posted it because that's what I believed. But then it's like, after this experience, I was like, whoa, like,
No, really love yourself, guys.
Yeah,
like, no,
like,
you don't understand.
I would talk about like loving your body and loving yourself, but I'm like, I did not even truly really grasp what that meant. Because yes, I was putting a lot of energy into other people. I wasn't putting any energy into myself. And, you know, again, became a huge people pleaser, struggled with boundaries, all that stuff. But that's what I thought, that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to just put energy into other people, make them feel good. That was my purpose. And I wanted them to believe those things. But I was like, but you didn't even live your life that way. So yeah, you believed it, but you weren't living it.
Now you're a walking Hallmark card.
And now I'm like, well, that's why what I think it freaks people out, because I'm like, you know, say these things and they're like, okay, like, yeah, wow,
We get it.
yeah,
Okay.
that's-
Well, this is where it comes back to the conversation around religion, right? And this is where religion has fallen so horribly short for hundreds of years, is that there is no direct experience. It's these platitudes, you know, like God is great, God is love. Like, what the fuck is God and what the fuck is love? We don't even really feel that. So then when you have these experiences where you are having a direct experience with the ineffable, which is my favorite way to talk about God, because you'll never get there. Every time you try to describe it, you just get pushed away.
Yeah.
You know, but to have that direct experience is what people are longing for.
Yeah.
To have that connection. First of all, I think that we connect with ourselves. We connect with I am. And then we can connect with others, and we can see that others are a mirror, and that this is all just one big holographic interactive matrix that we're swimming in eventually. It takes some time to get there, but, you know. And so having this as a sacrament, which it truly is, and, you know, what is a sacrament? A sacrament is an object or an occasion or something that connects you to deeper spirituality. What's more deeply spiritual than connecting to an extent that you can't even put it into words.
Oh.
Yeah.
So another lesson that keeps coming up, no matter how many times I've done them, has been just love. It's always under the surface of every lesson, which is crazy to me. We've talked about that before, how it always goes back to love. And then, growing up Christian, God is love. And then what you were saying, you're the creator of your own reality. And there have been times I've thought this, never said it out loud, I don't think, probably to my husband. He's used to my antics. I ask him all the time. I'm like, if I get too weird for you, will you tell me?
She's my guardrails.
But I was like, if God is love and we are love and we create our reality, we are gods? Is that I feel weird saying
The Bible
say
says
it.
it. Go ahead and say it. Your Bible even says it. Psalms 82 says you are gods, but you will die like men. We are gods.
I just got chills. I might even cry a little
That's
bit.
fucking awesome.
Who are you? Who are you?
I mean, I'm me, but that's okay. This is getting weird.
Not
I've
weird
never
enough.
said that out loud, but I feel like, in this space, it's true. You are the creator of your own reality. You are love. You are the essence of love. You can be the God of your surroundings and your universe, and you create,
But we're missing that. We're missing a lot of love. We're missing a lot of connection. We're missing a lot of community.
You're right. Mm-hmm. You're right. I think everything that's in the Bible is taken so out of context. And I've said this before, not just with religion, not just with the Bible. I'm sure you know this, Bill Wilson and AA. And I think where it has gone now from where it started, it's lost the context.
The direct experience.
Yes.
It's lost that direct experience.
So, I think that they look at people who are doing these things like, oh my God, they're doing drugs.
Oh, I've worked with so many 12-steppers and yeah, they can't tell their community that they've done mushrooms because they'll have to reset or...
That's my husband and his group.
Though. That's changing.
Slowly. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't think anybody in my husband's group would know the history, the true history.
It's insane. That's crazy that people don't know that...
I'm like, you're in this community and you don't even know
anything about the community.
It was founded on
The
LSD.
origin of the community.
Alcoholics Anonymous was founded on LSD,
Yeah.
which is an incredible molecule. It is a gift to the planet.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this. I want to take it back to Psanctuary. Have you had experiences with other psychedelics? I'm curious.
Yes.
They both just looked at each other.
I've had a running joke for years that says I'm going to retire on LSD because if I live to be 70 and I have, means, then I would probably drop acid 3 times a week.
Did Albert, who died taking
Yeah,
LSD? Albert Hoffman?
No, he's the one that synthesized it. It was the author Aldous Huxley.
Okay, Aldous Huxley,
Didn't die from
on his
LSD.
no, when he was on his deathbed, he was like, "I want some acid."
LSD.
Yeah,
No, his wife administered LSD to him on his deathbed.
So that's how he died. That's how he went out. That's not what. Yeah, you're right. That's not what killed him.
That's what he
Just to
wanted while
clarify,
he was going
a lot of
out.
people don't know how non-toxic LSD is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
And that's another thing that freaks people out.
Oh, I think
It's
there's
wild.
probably nothing. I'm trying to think of anything that kind of causes people to take a step back, like saying, I love LSD.
that's well.
Which is interesting because, if I have even talked about LSD in a conversation, people are like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah,
But then
easy.
they could struggle with alcohol or, maybe back in the day they did some cocaine and I'm like,
Well, okay, but this
Okay.
is my husband was an addict, alcoholic, up until last year, but the mention of the word acid to him was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What? You're like popping Adderall and
well,
cocaine.
it's
and
like the Lamar Odom documentary. where
Like how he
was
didn't want to
freaked out by
Ayahuasca
that.
or
Yeah.
ibogaine or ketamine, but he was like
He literally had an
overdosing.
overdose.
on all these other things. So obviously I feel like I'm answering my own question, but like, what is your favorite of all of these substances? Mushrooms.
Well, I mean, I think that they're applicable in different ways, right? Psilocybin is absolutely, for me, it is a spiritual portal, period. It allows me to understand. And I also want to say, you know, I consider myself an infant in psilocybin. I mean, I've had, I'd say easily 500 doses, and you still, like, you just keep learning, and you start to understand that the cultures that worked with psilocybin for hundreds and thousands of years, they had knowledge we are so far away from. I mean, you look at the Mayan culture that was, from the Inca all the way through the Maya, psychedelics played a central role in their lives and their cultures. In particular, the Maya, the mushrooms were very prominent. Ayahuasca and San Pedro were more in the South, and in Central America is more towards psilocybin. And like their understanding of time, nobody had time down like the Mayans. And when I take mushrooms by myself, if I take mushrooms and I don't have to like take care of people, because I do often take mushrooms while I'm working with people, and I find it very helpful. That's probably the concept that I spend the most time just sitting with, is our understanding of time. It's the most fascinating, you know, I feel like, aspect of our reality. It's so pervasive, but we understand it so little. So LSD, if I want to just be full on Eric, like I can't really. I used to be able to take LSD in public, and which I like doing that, because I do. What?
Say it, Courtney.
And then your wife put the GoPro.
You got to stop doing that in public, Eric.
I'm just so comfortable with psychedelics that I will dive into it. And like, I had a 300 microgram dose of LSD about 2 years ago that has me wanting to do like a 500 or 1,000 mics, because it's just like,
that's kind of where with mushrooms I've done 5 and 6, and my next one I want to do 7. Like I'm just diving slowly in. What's the largest amount you've ever done?
Mushrooms, 12, 13 grams.
Holy shit.
It's relative. I mean, I've had the most powerful experience that I've ever had is still a 6 gram dose.
Okay.
Just ripped me to shreds. I mean, I talked about this in a couple instances. I've just now started talking about this one, even though it was years ago, but I actually like sweated blood, like literally sweated blood. I went through this whole, it was a whole
like
thing.
Literally or
no,
figuratively?
Like actually sweated blood. I had this, talking about a religious experience. Like, it started out as this Garden of Gethsemane, like, you know, the story of Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus going to be put to death or whatever. And I encountered like death. It came to me. It's like, yep, night's your night, and went through all this thing, and it was a huge night with a lot of interesting entities that showed up. But there was one point where I saw him that I thought I was bleeding internally, and it was you know, there's a muscle that I tell people if they're upping their dose, and they're upping their dose solo, which cannot overstate how really important it is to either have a sitter if you're going to really push the boundaries, or to gradually train yourself to stay put. It's the stay put muscle that you have to dig in, because, you know, even myself, there's been so many times that I think this is it, dead, tonight's the night. And this instance tonight, I thought it was that, and I just dug in, and I really wouldn't. Like, I thought I was going to try to. There was a big part of me that wanted to try to drop myself to a hospital, because I thought I was bleeding internally. And so I had this kind of information come that said, okay, look, you are bleeding internally, but it's because we're cleaning out your DNA. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking to me? And so these like whatever alien figures inside of my head, you know, show me my DNA unraveling and taking out garbage DNA. And I'm like, well, that's okay. And I just fell asleep outside in the grass because it was so fucked. I was just like done after it was over. I woke up the next day and went in to go. I threw my glasses at the moon. And I went in to go get. I was like, that's the last coherent thing I really remember was throwing my glasses at the moon.
Yeah.
And I went inside the next day to get another pair of glasses, and I started to just looked in the mirror and my vision shit and I couldn't see, and I thought I had dirt on my head, and I get water to wash it off, and when I do, it's red like blood, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And so there is an actual medical condition under high stress, and it's been documented in firing squads, and usually when people are about to be put to death, that they will hematosis or something like that, sweat blood.
And you thought you were dying.
100. I was sure of it.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought I was dying 100 times on mushrooms.
So what was the lesson in that?
Oh my God. It was more about the experience. You know, I experienced my grandfather, who I never knew. He died. I'm going to go ahead and go there. I was given information about my family history in sort of an interstellar battle of sorts. So it wasn't like, you know, I didn't get a Hallmark card.
That was not
a Hallmark card.
That was a horror story.
Yeah, it was something very different.
So, I've heard of things like this. You were talking earlier about like the connection in the group settings. I was listening to a podcast the other day, a girl's first ayahuasca experience, which I want to ask you about that too. And in this group setting, you know, she's seeing herself as a small 5-year-old child, and, you know, she's under the medicine. So, you know, nobody else sees this. But then the next day, one of the guys who was sitting in ceremony with them came and said, you know, you had a little girl sitting next to you all night. Mm-hmm. Like, he was able to see what she was experiencing. So that's why I think I wanted to take it back to that when you're talking about the group ceremonies. I've never done it in a group setting, but I kind of want to.
Yeah.
But also I've heard of ayahuasca experiences, sounds similar to what you're saying with this, where you watch this with me, The Reality of Truth, where he like handed his heart to the moon, and the moon like washed it and cleansed it and put it back in him. Like a cellular level of healing happened. So I fully believe that's, you know, can happen on mushrooms too.
For sure. Yeah.
Have you done ayahuasca?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It told me that it kind of said like, thanks for visiting, but you know where you belong.
No.
Yeah, it was nice. I did it twice out at Peaceful Mountain Way here in Kentucky.
Berea.
Yeah. And, you know, it wasn't an unpleasant experience. I enjoy purging. So
I know, so do I. Is that weird?
Got a good puke out of it. It was funny. I'm vomiting. So the first night we're there, we do the ayahuasca, and you know, have the experience. And it was very much it was very mild but very DMT-ish. I've smoked DMT a few times, and it was very much like, okay, yep, this is DMT. And the next day I got up and went outside, and there is, of course, some Amanita muscaria right outside of our cabin.
No way.
Yeah. And so the next night, I'm like, okay, mushrooms are here. They're always with me. And so the next day we go do the ayahuasca the next night, and I go outside and I'm purging. And as I'm vomiting, I realize that I'm vomiting on cordyceps mushrooms, which are relatively rare. And I haven't seen cordyceps in years. And I'm like vomiting and laughing. Like, of course, of all the mushrooms that are going to show up, cordyceps, the one I haven't seen forever, is going to be in my puke.
Oh my God. This is so interesting. I do think that like with any type of psychedelic, well, maybe not LSD, not in my experience though. That's more of like a fun one for me. But it kind of puts you on this path of purpose of where you're supposed to go. So it's kind of cool that it was
LSD has been really helpful for me in moderating my alcohol consumption. I grew up in, you know, Bardstown, Bourbon County, and we were still in bourbon at age like 13 or 14, you know, and psilocybin hasn't had the impact on those kinds of tendencies for me like LSD has. LSD, if I take LSD, I just am averse to alcohol for months afterwards, it seems like.
Wow.
I don't care. Yeah.
So you said that you started this journey when you were 19. How did you get into all of this?
I just always like getting bent.
Getting fucked up.
Fucked up. I'm a Kentucky
Party.
boy. Kentucky boy.
Yeah,
well, there's not a lot of stuff to do.
Well, we did. So what happened is I was roommates and whatnot, you know, living down in whatever apartment complex, and we were smoking a lot of weed, and they were doing LSD around me, I think, and so I decided to imbibe on LSD, had an insanely good time. And then my friends were like, if you like acid, you're going to love mushrooms. And when as soon as the mushrooms hit, I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, this is my jam. And so I just love it. I love, even though I haven't taken mushrooms for, a couple months, really. And that was only like a gram or two. I haven't had a big dose of mushrooms for probably about a year now, I guess. And no matter how difficult it is, because it's very often there's difficulty in there, it just feels like my home. It just feels like this is the me. This is the real true me. LSD, I feel like it's the real true me, but I feel like it's the real true me like at 110 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And MDMA, we've done, MDMA is not a psychedelic, but we've done a fair amount of MDMA together, and that's been a really beautiful experience. All of it gets us in touch with an aspect of ourself that we have, perhaps forgotten or hidden.
Lost touch with.
Courtney, what about you?
I was terrified the first time I ate mushrooms.
How old were you?
I guess I was 21.
Okay.
21, 22? Yeah, 21, 22. I grew up competitive figure skating in Louisville. So I was that was my entire life. I was totally consumed from 6 to 19 years old. And then I left the sport when I realized I'm really injured and I'm not going to the Olympics and I'm not going to skate on Disney on Ice, and I need a social life and I need to actually get a job and learn how to live in the world. And I had never had a sip of alcohol or I was totally straight edge, because my whole life up until that point was, if anything was going to negatively impact my performance, no. I wouldn't even go on hikes or things with friends that I could injure myself, because your whole world isn't a competitive athlete to that degree. Is you've got this whole timeline of competitions, and my parents anyway, were paying a lot of money for all these things that were lined up. So I was just so afraid of messing it up. So when I got out of that, I was I went into depression, number one.
Because you didn't have that community.
I didn't have that community, and I didn't have that outlet, and I was so confused, super confused about who am I. I thought that's who I was, and realized it wasn't, and so I had to figure that out. But I started with cannabis. I had a boyfriend who smoked cannabis, and I always thought he was come on, man, you need to stop smoking so much weed. It's not good for your brain. Those are the kind of things that I would say. And then one day I tried it and I felt I feel myself for the first time. I think I feel me.
Yeah.
I spent all that time just kind of trying to get in my body, and kind of, it wasn't the healthiest outlet for me, I don't think, the way that I went about my ice skating career. But anyway, I learned how to feel myself with cannabis, and then I started to think, well, maybe these plants, I used to think they were drugs, not plants. They're drugs, somebody made them and they're bad. Mm-hmm. I just didn't connect. This is a plant that God has given us. So I relaxed a little bit with the cannabis, and then years later, I came across Terrence McKenna. And I started meditating a lot and listening to Alan Watts. And I met some people who had eaten mushrooms and said, I'm not the same after that, in a good way. And I started becoming more open to psychedelics. And accidentally, if you listen to the 4-hour podcast.
Totally did, yes.
I think it's in there, or on some episode we did, but I went to go buy some weed from my typical weed guy, and on the phone he said, I got this really good deal on some funky stuff, and I was like, wow, and he told me the price, and I was like, that's insane, that's so cheap. And I'm like, yeah, I'll meet you tonight. So I went to meet him, and he hands me a big bag of mushrooms, and I thought, what is this? I was like, what is this? And he's like, it's fungi. And I'm like, what? No, I don't want this. And he was like, I told you, fungi. It was like a bunch of fungi. Great deal on some fungi. I was like, I said funky. Funky stuff. And he was like, no, you think this much weed would be this cheap? And I was like, okay. So I took them and I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with all these mushrooms. And I ended up giving most of them away to friends, but I saved like a little bag, and me and my roommates ended up eating them one night. Well, one roommate and her friend that I didn't really know. And after that night, I said, well, that's the last time I'm ever doing that. That was horrible, because her friend was going into this loop, this fear loop, and she couldn't get out of it. And I just had no idea that was a thing. Right. I didn't know how to deal with it. And my roommate pieced out. She went into her room. She said, I'm not dealing with this. She went into her room, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I feel so bad. I don't want to leave her. And this girl just kept saying, like, I don't know what time it is. I think I need to go to work. Wait, no, I don't need to go to work. What time is it? I need to go to work. Wait, do I need to go to work? What time is it? And for like hours, the same thing. And it really impacts you. Right. That was the first time I'd eaten mushrooms. So I just thought, this is hell is what this is. Like, why would anybody do this? And that same night, a good friend of mine, like, called me from jail. Like, he got arrested and I was tripping. He was like, pick me up from jail. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, this is so, like, just seems so horrible. So I just was like, never again. And then, I don't know, like 6 months to a year later, I kept meeting people who had these really profound mushroom trips, who were like, I don't know what happened to you, but like, you got to try this. Like, you did it the wrong way. They kept telling me, you did it the wrong way. I don't know what you did, but you did it the wrong way. And they kept asking me things like, well, did you eat ginger? Like, did you, like, all these little tips and tricks that I should do? And I'm like, well, I guess I ate it the wrong way. I don't know. And then shortly after that, I met Eric, and it was just like, bing, the lights went on. He was telling me how he ate mushrooms, and I'm like, well, that's how you eat mushrooms, intentionally in the countryside around a fire. Like, you talk a lot beforehand, talk about your intentions, and spend time with it, and like a process. And so he told me about the way he ate mushrooms, and I was like, okay. And I'd been listening to a lot of Terrence McKenna, trying to figure out what happened to me that night. Like, that was scary and horrible. What happened to me? And then I started to think about it in a different way. Like, okay, well, I have had a lot of anxiety in my life, and I have been I've been controlling a lot of my life and lost, and maybe it makes sense. Like, maybe mushrooms were showing me that. So I became open to eating them again, and I ate them again with Eric, and that was history. After that, I just felt like home. I felt like, okay, like, I feel myself here. I could feel myself. So that was my first experience. And I didn't know how to talk about it, who to talk about it to. All of my friend group up until that point, it's hard to talk about, aliens and like the things that I was experiencing for the first time. You try to put words to it, and then it comes out all wonky, and
that's just interesting. I'm so happy that you were brave enough to like give it another shot. Because I know so many people who are like, no, I can't do mushrooms. I had a horrible experience one time. And we say the same thing. We're like, okay, but how did you do it? Who did you do them with? How much did you take? Like,
and it was like,
it sounds so pretentious to be like, you did it wrong, but it's
like people that we have a friend, Shane Moss, he's a comedian, and he does a lot of psychedelic comedy, and he tells this really funny story about people who say, oh man, like, I had a horrible time with mushrooms. Like, I was at this keg party, and then like I drank a bunch of beer, and then I ate mushrooms, and like it was the worst night of my life. And he's like, maybe the mushrooms are trying to tell you to stop going to keg parties. Like, maybe that was a good thing.
Right.
Well, it's
you gotta listen to him.
It's like your friend who said he had a bad experience, because what did it like?
Oh, he always has a bad experience though, but he's always taking them with multiple drugs and alcohol.
Well, and then there's a bunch of guys who are like, shut the fuck up, you're fine, which obviously makes it worse.
Yeah. And then there's also the point about it's not always a Hallmark card. The experience is sometimes very challenging, and there's a lot of importance in those experiences if we're willing to and able to talk about them with people who can really let us hold space for us while we go into it.
I also think that there's a huge amount of respect that goes into doing them when you respect the medicine. And the way you said you used to look at them as drugs, and so did I. You know, that's a drug. I would never do a drug. But when you look at it as a medicine, as something that can help you and something that can teach you, there's this respect that goes along with it. So whether I did get stuck in a loop in my first experience, but I was doing it with intention, with a guide, and I was able to get myself out of it, and I was able to process it and really understand what that loop meant for me. Mm-hmm. I think in a recreational setting, that would have freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah. Right.
Being stuck in a time loop.
Totally.
And not able to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Recreational mushrooms, I think it's really important for people to realize that recreational mushrooms are definitely a thing. Like, mushrooms are okay to help to have fun with, but I think you have to come with a certain level of experience to know that, like, the loops can happen. There's a lot of stuff that can come up, and one of the beautiful and terrifying things about mushrooms, or intimidating things about them, is that unlike alcohol and unlike even LSD or MDMA, they're so unpredictable. You absolutely have no idea what you have ahead of you, and so you really just need to be able to navigate that as good as possible, especially before going public.
I also think that teaches you some level of surrender.
Oh, that's all mushrooms are about. Like, that's ultimately what it's all about, and that's how you can get to that same space. I mean, I've had some of my strongest trips have been on like a 0.5 gram mushrooms, where I was facilitating and I had learned, or I'd practiced the let go muscle is what I call it. And you just keep letting go of all your constructs of reality. Just let go, let go, let go. Look, I don't know. That's my mantra going into mushrooms. I don't know.
I struggled with that, because I had had bulimia, and for me that was not about food, it was about control.
Of course.
Yeah, and so when I took it or whatever, I kept trying to avoid it. Mm-hmm. I kept trying, like, I acted like a 5-year-old. I would be like, I gotta go to the bathroom, I gotta go do this, I gotta go do this, and finally my guide is like, I think you're avoiding, and I want you to just try the best you can to just surrender and just let it be. And I had just the hardest time with that, but once I finally did, I had a very, very beautiful experience. And now I think if I do it again, that
when
right, sorry, when
you do it again,
sorry, when when I do a large dose like that again, I'm much more open to just
letting go,
letting it be whatever it is.
I mean, it's easy to say now.
Yeah. I've been there before. Next time it's gonna be so much easier.
I'm scared.
It's just a practice, right? It's like, it's like working out. Like, you get to levels of things, and you learn how to do something one way, and your muscle gets stronger here, and then you push yourself a little bit more, and then it's like, that muscle over here has not yet been worked.
And that level of vulnerability is so hard, because a lot of our parents didn't have certain tools and all of that stuff, and so I saw that as being weak, or I saw that as I cared about if they saw me crying, or I didn't want to get to that space, because it was just it was a safety thing for me. So
I just want to, if I could, just while we're close to it, just something that I've really never communicated before, but I feel like it's important now, is Courtney's telling her story about, the first time she had a good mushroom experience, and just reflecting on it. That was like the first significant time that Courtney and I spent time together. It was kind of our first date of sorts. And looking at my life since then, and feeling what a blessing she has been to my life, and relating it ultimately to the mushrooms. I mean, she came to my farm because she was working with Rainbow Blossom and wanted to come to her gourmet mushroom farm. And I was out in Indiana growing mushrooms, and that's how we got into the Terrence McKenna talk and all that. And we're even talking about the mushroom like it's a just kind of an object, right? But it is a sentient organism. It is conscious. And in my belief, in the way that I would try to portray this through Psanctuary, and what quantum sciences are starting to clarify for us, is that consciousness itself is primary. Consciousness does not exist inside of our head. Consciousness is the ability of one thing to reflect off of the other. So on some level, that table is conscious that there is a EQ sitting on top of it. And so if you can take that out into various levels of consciousness, and we tend to assume that humans are the highest form of consciousness, and maybe we are, maybe we aren't, but the mushroom is 100% conscious. I've had them absolutely, undeniably say to me, "Come get me, here I am," and I go there, and there is an abundance of wild psilocybin. It's happened so many times.
Wow.
And so what I would just like to say is that if you engage with the mushroom on a conscientious, intentional level, if you respect it, not just going into the experience, but it will bless your life. It will improve the quality of your life. And we see this, in the mental health field, and we are just scratching the surface. Like, what is it? How much of the earth has mycelium woven into it? Like everywhere except the ocean, pretty much.
Right.
This is the neural network of our planet, and we can assimilate that. It is incredible. What mushrooms do on a environmental level for our earth and sustaining life, creating the soil, which is the foundation of all life, like that's exactly what they do for us. And so I try not to separate out the form from the function, right? So it just hit me as Courtney was sharing how much our lives have been impacted by this organism, and how beautifully so. I mean, our children, like how much our daughter Courtney, before we intentionally had our daughter, she had a mushroom trip, and she wants to talk about this more, but like the mushrooms told her, like, you're ready for a daughter now, and it happened.
Yeah, I communicated with my daughter on that trip, and she let me know that she was ready to come in and please open it up for me. And and wow. You say saying those words out loud, it sounds woo woo, and it's hard. It can be hard. It can be hard. Yeah, I know you all are, but
saying it to other people.
It's in a way, I felt her, and I felt my body communicating with me and communicating with her, and I just it's really crazy to think that, well, okay, here's some mushrooms, and Eric grew those mushrooms with some other people in Jamaica that I ate in this circumstance I'm talking about, but I ate them, and then my body opened up, did something, and and there's technical terms we can use to describe that experience of chemicals exchanging and everything, but in the most simple terms, I ate the mushrooms, my body did something that allowed me to have an experience that I will remember for the rest of my life. And just saying that is so mind-blowing. To reduce it to I'm taking a drug is so far away from what's actually happening. The fact that, like Eric's saying, that we're a match to these earth-given fruits from the ground is it is a miracle to me when you really really think about it.
Did you all know that Louisville is covered in wild psilocybin?
Well, I've heard that. Like, you can go to Cherokee Park
I've never.
but I didn't realize all of Louisville.
We should go mushroom hunting.
It's only in the springtime.
Okay.
But
Not a lot of mushroom experts.
yeah, they do look. They can be difficult to identify this particular species.
That's
but
what makes me nervous.
Yeah, no, you should definitely only go with someone that knows what they're doing, or you're smart, you can figure it out. But it's beautiful. Like, this was one of the most powerful synchronicities that ever happened for me, that told me that, oh, there's something way bigger going on here. We were arrested. I had been growing mushrooms since 2003, and we were arrested in 2015. I had always had mushrooms in my closet or in my bedroom somewhere. And after we were arrested, no more mushrooms. And meanwhile, I had been looking for years and years and years, trying to find wild psilocybin, and never found any. Knew all the places to go look for them and never could find them. And we were arrested in July of 2015. We went a full, interesting 9 months without any mushrooms. And then I led a little hike here in Louisville up at one of the local parks. And at the very end of it, someone brought me this mushroom, and they're like, "Eric, what's this?" And I was like, "Where'd you find this?" And they took me over to the spot, and you could see like maybe 5 or 6 of these wavy cap mushrooms sticking up above the grass. And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And so, knowing how mushrooms do, I got down there and pulled back the grass, and there were like 50 underneath the grass. I was like, "Oh, hike's over. Thanks for coming, everybody." And so everybody left. And this was, again, 9 months, no mushrooms, really feeling not like I've not had my best friends there with me. Find this little patch of mushrooms, and I'm like, okay, where else are they? That year, when, like, it's so crazy to think, like, finally, after not growing mushrooms, I started finding, not only did I find some wild psilocybin, I found thousands. I mean, probably like 15 fresh pounds. And there was one time in particular,
Wow.
I was sitting in the living room, and like they were just like yelling at me all the time, and so I'm sitting in the living room one morning, like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I get that kind of familiar nagging, and they're like, "Eric, come get us. I'm like, I got so much work to do, I can't. They're like, "Eric, come on, come get us." Fuck, okay. And so I go to my normal spots, and there's none there. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm just hearing shit. This is just me imagining things. And so I'm driving through Cherokee Park, and I hear again, as I'm driving, it comes back, and it's like, "Eric, right here, pull over. I'm like, what the fuck? There's nothing here. Like, there's no mulch. These are mulch growing mushrooms. This is just like a lawn. And I'm like, all right, okay. So I pull over, stop the car, pull over. And or I pull over and then stop the car, and then I got out, and it's just like back here, and I'm like, what the fuck? So I just like walked through this grass that's like almost to my waist. There's no sense that there would be any mushrooms there, and I get to the back of the grass, and sure enough, there's a little sapling that's got some mulch around it and a few mushrooms. I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. And I look over to my right, about 20 feet away, and there's a pile of debris that had washed down the hill. I filled an entire disposable Kroger bag. Within like 15 minutes, I filled that thing with the biggest, juiciest wild psilocybin that I've ever found. And it literally like told me, come get me. And then there's another, the same year we go to Cherokee Triangle. We're down there. I think this is valuable because it does speak to the bigger intelligence of the mushroom. At least in my experience, I know that there is a bigger intelligence that was behind all this. But we're down Cherokee Triangle for the art fair. It starts raining, and we're like, all right, well, let's leave. It's over anyway. And we're leaving, and we're going out, and there's an older lady who her car is off the road, stuck in some mud and mulch. And so I pull over to get out and help push her, me and like 2 or 3 other guys. And I'm pushing the car, and I look down, and I'm surrounded by thousands of psilocybin mushrooms. The tires are spinning and are literally throwing psilocybin mushrooms at me.
Why?
And this is after, like, I'm a professional mushroom hunter. I helped to create the wild mushroom certification program for Indiana. I had been looking for 15 years for wild psilocybin and had never found any until the year that we were arrested and did not have mushrooms growing in our bedroom.
How did you all get busted?
Yeah.
I know that story.
Yeah, well, so I think this speaks to the whole, when we were talking about ceremony, I thought about this, because that was an instance where we were very ceremonial. You know, you create your container. And a friend of Courtney's, who she had known for a couple of years, came out and wanted to work on some stuff. Do you want to tell the story? You can just let you grab the mic.
Go ahead.
All right, sorry. And she was struggling, and she wanted to go lay down in her tent. And at this time, everybody had dosed. It was Courtney, myself, 2 other friends, and then her, so 3 other friends. And she asked if she'd go lay down in a tent. I was like, that's fine. So she went to her tent. I saw her go to the tent, just like 20 feet from the fire. And then about maybe 20 or 30 minutes later, her taillights were blasting down our driveway, and we're just like, it's a big driveway up on a hill, and I'm just like, oh, we're fucked. We had her keys. We had her keys in our house. She had a key magnetized under the bumper of her car.
So this is one of those instances where, you know, we had done everything we could possibly do to create that safe space. We'd spent all day talking about our intentions and our lives and connecting with these several people that we had communed with that night. And even, you know, her and I had a lot of intentional conversations in the couple of years we've known each other. And I didn't really think too much about, you know, inviting her out to hold space, or after she had requested that we do that. And even still, she ran. You know, sometimes when you're, as you described, trying to run from your feelings because they're so scary, sometimes we think, oh, I must need to go to the bathroom, or I must need something, so you physically try and run. And I've been there multiple times, and, you know, eventually you realize I can't get away from the feeling that I'm feeling. It's a feeling I need to feel. And so, yeah, unfortunately, you know, in a situation where you're not protected, like, you know, with Sanctuary, well, there's all kinds of things we learned from that scenario that will ensure that will never, ever happen again. But, you know, we weren't in a legal setting. Right. So there was that layer of energy there. Like, you know, what we're doing is, you know, yes, we're here with each other, like our intentions are similar. But this is something that we can't, if we need help, we can't call anybody. And there's that lingering energy there. I feel like, I know it's been for me in the past when I've eaten mushrooms, and it's not like under a protected, whether we're in Jamaica where it's unregulated, therefore, you know, semi-legal, or here with Sanctuary, we have that layer of protection. So if we need help, we can call, and you know that. So, I mean, it does, provide that.
Well, I mean, I guess what I want to say is that, how do I want to say it? Nobody's really going to be able to do anything for you, no matter what. Whoever you call, there's nothing that they can do for you. And, you know, I had a session a few months back here in Kentucky where the individual, one of the individuals, was certain that she was dying, and it was probably about 2 hours that I spent with her in a field where she was, you know, gonna run, and I think as much as the legal protection, which that is definitely a factor. That's definitely very real, that you know when you're hiding something, and mushrooms are not about hiding. There is no hiding with mushrooms. No. And so to have that kind of in the back of your mind is certainly problematic. It doesn't eliminate that risk. But what would be even more helpful is a society that was understanding. They're like, oh, because like, for instance, this instance that happened a couple months ago, the only thing I was really concerned about is what the neighbors are going to think. Right. And I don't really care. I just don't want to cause anybody upset. I don't want the neighbors to be upset or anything. But like, if you lived in a world where you could say to your neighbors, hey, we're going to be doing some mushrooms tomorrow, might hear some weird sounds, it's all good. Like that. And what Courtney is speaking to that is really important is all of these subtle factors that create the setting. You know, we talk so much about set and setting in psychedelic, or it actually creates this set as well. Your mindset going in, if you're doing something that you feel like you got to hide, that's a problem. So anyway, just to say that the individual who ran off, she ended up running off into a ditch, and she didn't get hurt or anything, but some people came out and heard her hollering, and a couple of days later, the police came in with warrants. We actually came back the next day. As soon as we got able to drive, we went looking for her. Couldn't find her, drove an hour and a half to her boyfriend's house because we figured that's where she tried to go. Couldn't find her, and came back that night, and my neighbor had said that the sheriff had been there looking for the mushroom party that got out of hand, and I was a massive mushroom. I was growing a lot of psilocybin, and so we had a big-ass bonfire, burned everything except for a pound. My dumb ass was like, oh, I'm not losing my pound. I'm not losing my mushrooms. So I kept a couple cultures and a pound of mushrooms, took the mushrooms out in the woods, and they went through the farm. They never found anything, and just as they were about to leave, this one cop was like, well, I know you're growing weed out in your woods. I'm going to go find it. And he walked out in the woods, and I had put my bong and stuff out, and he fucking found that shit out. Like we were so certain that we were free and clear. So anyway, but actually that, there was an intelligence behind that, because for, I don't know, a couple of years at that point, I started Myco in 2013, and I was still doing the underground work, wasn't making enough money in Jamaica to quit doing the underground work, and I kept saying to Courtney, like, I just wish that I could just be above ground with this. I hate hiding it. I'm proud of the work that we do. We're helping people. This is great work. And so when that happened, my master's degree was basically null and void as far as employment goes, and so I just put everything I had into Jamaica, and it took off. So it all has a role to play.
Well, that's kind of goes into my next question, which is, what is your hope for the future of psychedelics and healing and wellness and health? And
You can go ahead. I'll think about that for a minute. It's a big question.
For me, I think about my kids, and I think about just wanting it to be a normal conversation.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the more immediate future. Like when I think of 50 years from now, I think, I want my son and daughter to kind of like, I guess what Eric just touched on, be able to say, like, I'm going into ceremony or whatever they're going to call it, if they do choose to go into ceremony. But yeah, like to be able to communicate that to the people that they care about and have those people respond with, awesome, I got your back. Like, I'm here if you need anything, instead of like, oh, I hope you're going to be okay, like.
Or call the cops on you or whatever.
Yeah. Or just express like worry and concern, like, oh, that's so crazy. Oh, like, I hope, cause that's a lot of people, or a lot of people don't have that privilege right now to communicate to the people they love that this is something I'm doing. We've worked with a lot of people who don't tell their spouse. They say, oh, I'm going on a yoga retreat. Or, they can't tell, they feel like they can't tell their kids or their parents or anything. So that's what I imagine is just it being the norm. And yeah.
My vision for psychedelics in the future is that psychedelic companies will be able to get insurance for their companies.
Yes.
No, think about this. With this, there are bars all over, everywhere. There's just alcohol just being like glamorized, and it's just everywhere. And you can open a business, you can open a bar relatively easily, and there you go. You're off and running. And like the fact that we have not been able to get insured has caused such an enormous headache, but that just speaks to, the normalization that Courtney's referring to. And so, yeah, I would love to see psychedelics, including LSD. I think LSD is an incredible, beautiful compound that when you take LSD, you probably should go to a compound and do it. But to have a world where we have these places where people can, openly engage without any kind of concern, and it's just normal.
I love that.
I do too.
And I do feel like on small doses of mushrooms, I'm more aware of my surroundings and consciously aware of where my kids are and what my kids are doing, and able to live in a present moment than any amount of alcohol could ever do for me.
Oh.
And then if you get to the point where you can be on 5 grams of mushrooms and still have that wherewithal and be able to be more aware of even deeper natures, I'm telling you, that's what we're going to find. We're going to find that the shamans, like, they knew what they were doing. This was not just some story that they were telling people. They knew how to work with aspects of self, like, that we aren't even aware that we have, and so we are the time machine, we are the healers, and to be able to fully realize that ourselves, that's kind of like, I think that's the ultimate human ambition.
I love that.
Yeah.
We got a long way to go, but we're on our way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. So we're going to be members, but share really quick. We'll put it in our bio. We'll put the links and everything, how people can find you on social media and your website and all the info they need.
Sure, yeah. So Psanctuary.org. So P Sanctuary. Yeah. You can Google us. You can just Google Sanctuary Mushroom Church and we'll come right up. Sanctuary Church on Instagram. And if you want to listen to our podcast, psilocybinsays.com. And we're on all the places podcasts are and YouTube and all that. I think.
On psilocybin, it's really a fun way to connect with people. I've been really humbled and honored by how many people have followed my work over the years, and that's why I wanted to do that, was just to get an access point where we can just talk. I'm not the dude on the pedestal. I'm just some dude with mushrooms.
Yeah, on psilocybin live stream. That's Monday nights at 7 p.m. Yeah. Most Mondays. You can go to the Psilocybin Says YouTube for that info, but I'll also say if you're interested in checking out our Sunday services, that's a great way to feel us out. So the link is on our sanctuary.org site. You can get the link there.
We'll put them all on there for everybody too.
Yep.
Awesome.
Cool. That sounds great.
Thank you guys
for having us, and thank you
so
for
much.
doing what you're doing. Like when you all reached out, seeing 2 moms who are entrepreneurs and just willing to dive right in, just really felt really good.
Well, we need to talk about it. So it's nice. It's kind of what you're saying, like bringing it out from underground in a space that you feel more open to talking about. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just informing people and making connections. That's what it's all about.
And also our Wednesday circles, we're going to be having childcare there. So if you want to come be a part of that and you want your kids to be able to play and hang
so
out.
cool.
I know. I'm like, I got a 2-year-old, so
We're
just starting that. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But there's so many families that are part of our community.
I love that.
Can't go to a lot of stuff because what are the kids going to do? And it's good for the kids to have other kids.
Yeah.
Connection. Love
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys
On the other side.
on the other side.
Bye.